Hi, everyone, and welcome back to day 2 of Virtually, our brand new free virtual web accessibility and digital inclusion conference. Massive thanks to Al and Armani for their talk earlier, evolving accessibility from compliance to inclusion. Before we start, I'd like to mention a couple of things. Firstly, we have a free accessibility assessment tool, which enables you to discover your organization's accessibility capability and get a tailored strategy for improving it. You can find that over at nomensa.com/AA. And you can also find some more detailed information there too. As I mentioned, that's completely free. Secondly, I mentioned yesterday that if you'd be interested in joining the team here at Nomensa, we're always on the lookout for top talent. Head over to nomensa.com/careers for some more info there. So up next, we have Gigi Etienne from What Three Words with her talk, Bridging the Gap Between Physical and Digital Accessibility. In this talk, Gigi will tell us how What Three Words is in the unique position to be able to help people with disabilities more easily navigate the physical world. And Gigi will tell us more about their accessibility journey. As always, say hello to each other in the chat. Make sure your chat settings are switched to panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your messages, and do let us know if there's any issues with the stream. Also, please do ask lots of questions. There's the Q&A function just at the bottom of your Zoom window, and you can submit your questions through there. So I'll hand over to Gigi to kick things off.
Thank you so much. First of all, thanks for the invite for this amazing conference, and it's great that you're creating more free accessibility conferences. So well done to the team for organizing this conference. I'm very happy to be part of the speaker list today. And so I'm going to give a quick intro about myself, and I'm going to give a quick visual description as well. So I'm Gigi. I work at What Three Words, and I'm the accessibility lead at What Three Words. I am a white woman in my late 20s. I am wearing today a yellow turtleneck, and I'm wearing glasses, and I have long blonde hair as well. So very happy, like I said, to be here, and I'm going to be telling you today about the special and unique place that What Three Words has in terms of being able to help people with disabilities navigate the physical world, but also how that comes with a responsibility for us to make sure that we are accessible in the digital world as well. So I'm going to start with telling you a bit of a story as to how What Three Words got started in accessibility. This was about a couple of years ago, maybe. I was invited to speak at a conference in the Business Design Center in Angel in London. And I put the address into the city map or the search box to go there, and the pin dropped in the more of the left side of the building. So I assumed that the entrance was more on the left side of the building, and I ended up going to the left side road to enter on the left side of the building. When I got there, it said no loading bay entrance, no consumer entrance. And so I was just there looking at this entrance that was not available to me, and I just asked the security guard, hey, like, I'm late for this presentation I have to give. Where do I go from here? So he told me, you know, this is not in a consumer entrance. You're going to have to walk all around the building to the other end of the building, and that's where you're going to have the consumer entrance. So I was like, okay, thank you so much. And I walked around it. There were steps along the way, and it took me about 10 minutes because it's a big building to walk all around the building to the right entrance. And that's when it hit me. When I got there, I was like, this is crazy that, you know, I mean, I was able to run and quickly get there, and I was only a few minutes late for my meeting and my presentation. But, you know, this is not the experience that everyone might have. And so, you know, I am sitting here with an amazing product, which is What Three Words, and this product could literally solve this problem. So if all of the venues use What Three Words, they could direct people to the exact entrance and avoid issues like this, right? And so this is where I think What Three Words plays a really important role in how do we bring physical accessibility in this world. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about What Three Words a little bit first so you understand the concept, and then I'll tell you about how that sort of connects with our responsibility to make our own company accessible on a digital side as well. So the reason that what three words exists is because addresses are very complicated and they're not very accurate. So similar addresses exist. It's very easy to make a mistake between something like Acadia Drive or Acadia Drive or Acacia, etc. So like very similar addresses that can lead to mistakes. There's a lot of addresses that are not just similar, but they're exactly the same address. So in London alone, there's about 14 church roads, and in the UK, there's about 1,000 church roads. So you can very easily go to the wrong church road if you don't have the full address, right? And this is only like places like urban areas, but if we talk about rural areas like a farm, for example, it's very well known that postcodes and addresses in rural areas just don't work as well. And this is a very clear example here where I'm showing a farm that's about half a kilometer away from the actual pin that's dropping in the map in Google Maps. So, issues like this happen sort of all the time. And when you think about it, the reason this happens is because addresses were not invented with voice or accessibility in mind. Addresses were invented over 300 years ago or so for a very specific use case, which was a local postman delivering to a local business or a local home. They weren't invented for the 21st century digital world that we live in today. And when it comes to voice, which is the new sort of innovation that one of the few innovations that we're seeing today is, I will dare anyone in the audience today to pronounce this name that I'm showing on the screen right now. It's spelled ZZYZX Road. So if you can pronounce that into a device by voice, like, by all means go for it. But I definitely don't know how to do that. So voice has become complicated with addresses as well. And, just even with traditional addresses as well. So, if I type 240 California Street and I say I want to go to 240 California Street, Google Maps is going to get it as 240 California Street instead of 240 California Street. So it just creates a lot of issues around that as well. Some of you might be thinking, okay, Gigi, but GPS coordinates already exist and they're very accurate and basically very accurate, and you can just use GPS coordinates to get to a specific location. And that's true. I mean, GPS coordinates are a very accurate system that we do have, but they're just not human friendly. I mean, no one has ever asked you, hey, let's meet for coffee at 64 degrees, 08 minutes, 25 seconds, 86 northwest, etc. Like that has never happened, right? And so this is where what three words comes in. This is where what three words provides a solution for communicating a very precise address in a very simple way. The way we've done it is we split the world into a grid of 3-meter by 3-meter squares. And to every 3-meter square in the world, we've given a unique combination of 3 words from the dictionary. 3 simple words. So if I say scatters, month, yond, those 3 words are this square in front of that house in Gloucestershire is the only square in the world that has those 3 words assigned to it, that combination of words assigned to it. And, and there's another 3 words next to it, another square, and so on. So basically just making it super simple to talk about any specific location with the precision of 3 meters and the simplicity of just 3 simple words. So if we think back at the example earlier, I could have been given the 3 words of the exact consumer entrance instead of the sort of pin in the big building, and that would have solved that problem for me. What three words is used by a lot of different organizations and companies around the world. One of the ones that excites me the most is emergency services. A lot of the majority of emergency services in the UK and around the world, in some countries as well, use what three words to rescue people. So you can call the police or the ambulance or fire and say, hey, this is my location, this is the incident, and these are my 3 words, and they'll know how to get to you. So that's a very sort of useful use case for you to be aware of as well in the future if you ever need it. But when it comes to accessibility, what's really exciting is that now big venues and big locations like the ones that we were talking about earlier are going to take you to the, like, they basically can tell you the exact location of the entrance for you. And so, you know, that could be the entrance to a museum, it could be the entrance to a hospital. How many hospitals, how many entrances do hospitals have? So being able to talk about the specific entrance to a hospital for the specific appointment that you're going to, for example. And you know, also entrances to train stations or entrances to a stadium as well. So there's a lot of things like that that can be solved with what three words. And when it comes again to accessibility, people with mobility impairments could be told the step-free entrance for XYZ venue is at oppose claim only, for example, and that's going to take you to the exact entrance. And again, that would have solved my issue when I was going to that venue earlier. A couple of years ago, the story I told earlier, it could have solved that issue, but also more importantly, if it's someone going to this venue and they use the wheelchair, for example, then they don't want to have to go to the wrong door and then back to the right door. So this is a great way for them, for the venue to tell their visitors, and especially their disabled visitors, how to get to the exact location with what three words. And this is exactly what's happened. So, you know, after that experience 2 years ago, I went out and I started talking to a lot of venues around the world and told them, hey, like, you can use what three words, just put this on your website and it's going to help your visitors get to the right entrances. So we've got now venues like the O2, like Church House Westminster, like stadiums like Alexander Palace, and they're all using what three words to get people to the exact entrances in that way. So it's great to see, and we just, you know, we love to see more and more venues doing this as well. What's also been really great is seeing apps like Foresighter, for example, who is an app for people with visual impairments, and how they use what three words to let people know their exact location as well. So I'm going to share a quick demo of how this works, and hopefully you can hear it. If you didn't hear that, I'm not sure if you did, but if you didn't hear that, basically this app is giving the user the exact location for where they are, 212 Malden Crescent, and it's also giving them the three words of where they are, Swaps Toxic Froth. And that allows the person to communicate that location, whether it's with friends or family or emergency services, for example, so that they can communicate their exact location with what three words. Another app that I really love, which is called Ira, also an app for people with visual impairments, where they are connected basically with agents that can help them achieve daily tasks. Ira has integrated what three words so that they can help the user navigate to a what three words address, or they can also give the user their current location using what three words, which is very exciting again. And so, you know, all of these conversations that I was having were really interesting. A lot of people were really interested, but this question kept coming up. We've heard about what three words, we want to use it on our app or website, but we just need to ask you this, like, is what three words accessible? So I kept just getting this question a lot. And so, you know, I basically went to the product team and we started having this conversation. And this is where I come to talk about sort of where physical accessibility meets digital accessibility. We know that we have a product that is very helpful for people with disabilities, but we also know and realize quite quickly that this is only ever going to be really helpful if we, as what three words, as the company, as the app of what three words, become fully accessible to people with disabilities, and I mean in a digital way. And so this is what I'm going to sort of tell you a bit more about today. I'm going to share 6 of the lessons that we've learned along the process of making what three words more accessible. And I'm going to share a bit sort of the motto of how we've approached this. So I think the first lesson that I learned was leadership's approval is key. And it's actually going to be really difficult, I think, personally, that to achieve any serious progress in accessibility in a company unless you have your leadership's approval to do so. It's very much of a top-down approach in a lot of ways, and so you need to make sure that your CEO or CPO are on board and and do think that accessibility is a priority for the company to work on. So convincing the leadership is not easy necessarily. At what three words, I was very lucky that we considered that accessibility was a priority. We are building a global standard for addresses, and so it being accessible is a priority. And so that was great, because it definitely made my job easier, and that was great to see. But it might be, you know, something to work on as well for different people. So if you're like me in a company and you want to talk to your managers, your boss, your CEO, and tell them, hey, like, let's make accessibility a priority, let's work on this. There's a few things that you can do. I mean, there's a lot more than what I've put on the screen today, but there's a few things that you can do. You can start with the simple argument, and I think personally this should be the only argument to be had, which is it's the right thing to do. You know, you should be making your products accessible, period. Like that's the way it should be, just to include everyone in the conversation and in the usability of your product. But I think one thing that I wanted to share, which was really helpful as well for me in the process, was to show people with disabilities interacting with your product to your leadership. And so, you know, we did a few interviews with people with disabilities interacting with What Three Words, and that was a great way for me to then show to our leadership, like, look, these are the issues that they're finding. So if you can do something like that, I think that could be a really good way of engaging the leadership in the product, in the accessibility project that you're building. And then if you have to, and I mean, I don't, this is not sort of an argument that I usually go to regularly, but if you have to, it does make business sense. And there's a lot of articles and great resources out there telling you why it makes business sense to include people with disabilities. But then again, I think I personally use that as a last resort sort of argument. And then, so this is kind of for the people who are like me, building accessibility in a company, for people who are leaders, for the CEOs and CPOs out there, and for all of the people who have the decision-making power in this. I would really just encourage you to make accessibility a priority. It's not that difficult. It just means you just need to strategize, you just need to put things in place, but you know, it's going to make a big difference as well. So I would just really encourage you to just simply do it and make accessibility a priority in your company. The second thing that we learned was that, or that I learned when I was installing this program of accessibility at What Three Words, was people actually really want to help. Like, I've never come across someone who's saying, oh, like, you know, I don't really want to, like, I'm not interested in helping people with disabilities. I'm not interested in making our product more accessible. That actually hasn't happened, right? So people want to help. I think it's just a question of, do they know what they need to do to help make something more accessible in their day-to-day job, or has it been given to them as a priority, or is there bigger priorities that mean that they don't have the time and resources to work on accessibility? So I think you just got to differentiate between these two and then help them get there. What I did at What Three Words to sort of go around that was basically find all of the relevant people in the company. And basically that meant, you know, the person responsible for social media, the person responsible in the sales team, for example, for creating decks, or the person in PR, or like obviously the product team, developers and designers, and just basically going to each person and then having that conversation with them and telling them, you know, these are 5 or 2 or 3 things that you can do to make your job more accessible, which means that the broader experience and the broader idea of accessibility in the company is basically going to improve, and that's worked really well. I mean, personally, I think that's worked really well. I mean, and people do want to help. Like, I've had some of my colleagues have spent like 3 hours, like, you know, writing captions on videos because it was a really important video for it to have captions. And so, you know, people do want to do the work. I think you just need to give them sort of the simple and clear guidelines of what they need to do, basically. The third point that I wanted to share is that accessibility reports, and by that I mean automated reports for accessibility testing, don't always reflect and don't in fact reflect the real world. So we had this situation where we were about 85 out of 100 points in the accessibility report, and so we thought, hey, like, you know, at first we thought, hey, like, that's not bad, like, right, like, let's see where that takes us. But then we started getting feedback from users such as this one. I'm blind and I have been told to get the What Three Words app for my phone. I love the concept and I think it could be really useful, but your app doesn't work with voiceover. It just, I can't use the app. And so we realized very quickly that we had to talk to people with disabilities to understand what their experience was. And so we do a lot of user testing. It's something we do 2 to 3 user testing interviews per week or in average. And so we said, okay, great, let's do user testing with people with disabilities. The problem that we found is that a lot of the user testing platforms out there, including the one that we use, don't have a way of filtering by disabilities. So, you can filter by age, you can filter by country, by language, by parental status even, but um, you can't filter by a disability. So that was difficult because that meant that we had to go out there and find our own testers with disabilities for us to do the interviews with. Successfully, we managed to do that, and we did some of the interviews. So here's a photo of my colleague Nikki, myself, and we were interviewing our user Nikki as well. So she's blind, and she was showing us how she uses the What Three Words app using VoiceOver. We learned a huge amount of things by doing interviews such as this one with Nikki. And I think the one that I want to highlight here is that even though we were having like 85% in the accessibility score in the automated test, and even if you have 100% of it, it's only ever going to get you to about 30% of accessibility issues being solved or being looked at. So it's very important that you think about automated reports as just one part of the equation. Which leads me to my fourth point, which is the importance of user testing with people with disabilities. And I have just a quick example, which I think highlights my whole point, which is basically this example. Nikki and I were doing this interview with one of our users again, and he was blind and he was using the app with VoiceOver. We asked him if he could input a what three words address into the search bar, and so we saw him to start typing the address, and he typed word space word space word. For context, a what three words address format is always word dot word dot word. But he started typing without the dots. And we realized it's because we had never told him that there's supposed to be dots in between the words, and B, he had never seen the dots. So there was no way for him to know that the format was with the dots in between. So I think for me, that's a great example because I think it illustrates really well that it doesn't matter how many automated tests you pass at 100%. It doesn't matter how much empathy you have in the team. I mean, Nikki and I had been working with this for a long time. We deeply care about accessibility, and neither of us had picked up on that because it's not something that we would experience unless you have the lived experience. And so just again, very important to include people with disabilities in the process of testing, and hopefully as well in the process of building your products. My fifth point, which I wanted to highlight, was that we need to rethink about where accessibility fits into our process. I think as an industry and as a tech industry, we're at a stage where this is basically what we have today, more like the, say, waterfall approach to accessibility. We define our product, we design it, we develop it, we test it, and then we deploy it. And then at the end, we go, oh yeah, we need to think about accessibility. So how do we weave accessibility into all of this? Let's go back and look at the code and verify everything and just do testing and then go and make sure that our product is accessible. So that's what historically has been the case. And so What Three Words, we decided, well, this needs to change from an industry perspective, but let's try to change it as well from a What Three Words perspective. How would we do this differently? And so leaning more towards an agile approach of accessibility, which it would be something like we do 2-week sprints. And so it would be something like you sort of define, design, develop, and test and deploy. And 2 weeks later, you do the same process again and again. But how do you sort of put accessibility into that? We considered maybe putting it every 2 weeks at the deployment stage. That would already be better, arguably, than doing it at the end of a big project. But again, that wouldn't really include accessibility into the actual process. It would just be something that you're retrospectively going back to fix. So we decided, ideally where we want to get to is a situation where accessibility is being considered at every stage of the product development phase. So when you're defining a feature, accessibility is part of the conversation. When you're designing it, accessibility is part of it. When you're developing, when you're testing, and when you're deploying it, all of it, accessibility has been part of the conversation all along the way. So that is, I guess, sort of the ideal scenario where we're working towards. And I think just sort of to end on my last point, which builds really nicely on that, is how do you do that? How do you bring accessibility to every stage of the conversation, every stage of the process? And I think the way to do this is really to build a culture around accessibility in your company. So how do you make sure that every relevant person in the company is aware of accessibility, is aware of what they need to do, of the 2 or 3 things that I was mentioning earlier that they need to do to make a difference in accessibility, and making sure that they are doing those things as time goes by. And I think if you manage to build a culture around it, where people from PR and social media, from sales, from obviously developers, designers, and testers, if everyone is thinking of accessibility, then that is something that you're probably going to get to that sort of model that we were talking about earlier. So that's basically sort of the 6 points that I wanted to highlight, and maybe just leave you with this slide and these thoughts. I've kind of developed a model around accessibility, which is a way for companies to take this and build accessibility in their companies. I think this model could be applied to a lot of different companies, probably of similar sizes, and in technology, similar sizes to What3Words. I think probably for bigger companies, it would be probably a more complex and different model. But I think overall it can be applied in many different ways and to many different companies. I think, the motto is basically a pyramid, and at the very top you have the leadership's approval, how important it is to get the leadership's approval. And I think that's highlighted in the motto. But obviously you have to, all of the communications that the company puts out there need to be accessible. So, whether you're doing that on social media, and like things like you can camel case or capitalize hashtags, or you can put alt text into the images that you're putting on social media. You can obviously put captions on the videos that you're putting out there. So a lot of these little things that need to happen as well. Obviously, bringing the culture side of things is the second point, sort of like really what we were talking about, really getting everyone involved in the company with accessibility, and everyone thinking about accessibility. And then lastly, and I think the sort of the sort of the second stage, the third point of the second part of the model, which would be the innovation part, like what can you do in your company? What's your company doing to innovate in accessibility? And I think everyone has a position to innovate in accessibility. It's a space that is incredible, but has a lot of room to grow as well at this moment. So like, what can we do in your company to innovate in accessibility? And basically keeping your company ahead of the curve in accessibility innovation. And then all of these points, in my opinion, sort of trickle down and all the way into product, because obviously what you put out there for your users, that's ultimately the end result. That's what you want to see. You want to see your users use a product that is accessible to them, and that they can do all of the main actions independently, right? So this is basically where you want to get to. So I hope that was a nice overview of how we've taken a tool that's very helpful for people with disabilities in the physical space, and how we've taken the responsibility of, hey, let's take that responsibility of how we can ensure that we are accessible in the digital space as well, and how that's meant an entire accessibility program for What3Words, which hopefully more and more companies can do as well. I think that's the end of my presentation. I'd love to take some questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gigi. What a great presentation. I'm personally a
Thank you.
massive fan of What3Words. I just think it's such a great solution with so many different applications. I see lots of questions coming in. Please do submit them using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. First question we have one from here from Catherine, who asks, what has been your favorite success story of the use of What3Words? Something that's really stood out to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I would have to say that probably, and it's not an accessibility one necessarily, but probably the emergency services use cases. I mean, we've heard incredible stories of people literally being saved, their lives being saved, because they were able to use What3Words to get people to find them. So I think that would probably be my top story of how What3Words can be helpful for people.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, next question. We have one from Raina, who asks, how do you find participants with disabilities for testing? We've noticed the same as you, that the usability platforms we've looked at don't include these.
Yeah, I have to say it's not easy. Like I didn't have an easy time with this. I think it's definitely something that needs improving. There's a lot of new companies that are doing this. I mean, I would look into Fable, for example. They have a great platform where they already have a pool of testers, and you can work with them directly. And they have a great platform to do this. I think personally at what through words so far what we've done is basically just through network and talking to people we found people, and we're building a list of testers that we're working with as well. So I think not ideal, and I think definitely as we scale we need to look into different solutions, but this has been what we've been able to do so far.
Thank you. So we have a question here from Freya. Freya asks, what approaches do you take to make your map accessible on the website?
Oh, I love that question because it's when I was talking about innovation earlier. This is exactly what I was referring to, and I think this is it's going to be more of a question than an answer, to be honest. But a map, by definition, is a visual product, and so by definition, is also not accessible for people with visual impairments. And so, we're very aware of that, and we're very aware that the experience of someone finding a what three words address using the map is not accessible currently for people with a visual impairment or who are blind. And so that's something that I think we need. I'm part of like groups and sort of working groups and discussions of how do we reinvent the map, how do we think about a map that's designed for in different ways, that's not just a visual product. And I think we need a lot of from an industry perspective, and I don't just mean what three words, I think we need a lot of innovation in that respect. I think there's a lot of great conversations going on, but I would love to see that developing a bit more.
Thank you. We have another question here from Freya, who asks, how do you deal with words that sound too similar, being really close together? Is there a way to adjust the dictionary in the event of a collision from a sound perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of points there. We've taken the words that sound the same out of the sort of the dictionary. So if two words are written differently but sound the same, then we've taken one of those words out of the list of words. So that sort of already really reduces the risk of that happening. We've also in our product there's a feature that's called auto suggest, which means that the similar sounding combinations are far apart from each other. So if you have table, chair, spoon, that might be in the UK, and table, chair, spoons might be in the US. So that if you're not going to accidentally drive to the US if you're in the UK, sort of thing. So we've made sure that those similar combinations are placed far apart from each other.
Thank you very much. So we have a question here from Alex. And Alex asks, can you use what three words for canonical mapping back to addresses? I know it maps to GPS coordinates, but if you wanted to support users in entering addresses via voice, etc., using what three words for billing addresses, for example, rather than having to enter the full details, can they link back to an individual address, i.e. blocks of flats, or does that mean it doesn't work?
I'm not exactly sure I understand the full question. One point that's mentioned in the question is voice entry, and I think that's a very important one to highlight. You can, and I think one actually that I haven't mentioned, but it's very important for accessibility, is that you can enter what three words address by typing, but you can also enter it by voice entry. So I can say table, chair, spoon, and it's going to recognize that and sort of enter it. And I can also enter it by scanning. So I can scan a what three words address and receiving it. So that just because you reminded me of that with that question. But in terms of your question, I'm not sure if you want to clarify that question or if we.
Yeah, Alex, if you would like to kind of clarify that question, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Sorry.
Awesome. So we have a question here that asks, do you have any other cross-app collaborations, for example, Foresight 4 and Era examples coming up?
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I had to choose only a couple to show today, but there's a lot, and I would encourage you to go on the products page at What Three Words, and you can filter by sort of industry. So you can filter by automotive, ride hailing, or accessibility is one of the sections as well. And you can see all of the accessibility apps that are using What Three Words, all of the ride hailing apps that are using What Three Words, and so on. So there's a lot more out there, and I would encourage you to go on our website and check them out.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got a question here from Alex who asks about car insurance companies and whether they use What Three Words to tell them where the accident was for claims. I suppose. I suppose there's so many different applications for
Yeah,
What
so
Three Words.
many. That is one of them. Also for rescue, like in case of if you break down, there's a lot of companies around the world that use What Three Words for breakdown. So if your car breaks down, you can tell them your exact location with What Three Words. So yeah, no, there's a lot of use cases around insurance and that sort of thing as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've got a couple of questions that are quite similar here regarding as the question here is the mapping with squares is very useful for outdoor navigation. However, indoors with a building with multiple floors, for example, it could become difficult. Is What Three Words used for indoor navigation at all? And is that something that's kind of in the pipeline on the roadmap for you?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of the different levels, right now we're a 2D solution. So basically, like addresses work today, you would be able to direct someone to the right entrance, and then you would say, for example, simply famous spider, floor 3, right? And so that's basically how you would use a What Three Words address in that context. In terms of indoor navigation, that is a great question. The problem right now with indoor navigation is that GPS coordinates, meaning the blue dot on your phone, doesn't really work very well indoors. And so until that technology improves, then we won't be able to do sort of navigation indoors. And if you think about it, companies like Google and Apple don't really do indoor navigation very much. And there's a lot of innovation happening in that space at the moment. And there's a few companies, smaller companies that are doing that, including Good Maps, that's also one of our partners. And so there's a few companies that are doing this, but they're not using GPS coordinates for indoor navigation, they're using beacons. And so because What Three Words is basically relying on what GPS coordinates we need for the GPS, we were waiting for the GPS coordinate technology to improve for us to be able to be used indoors at some point.
Thank you. So you mentioned there that the Google Maps is one of your partners. We've got a question here kind of relating to that, which asks, would the
Sorry, I said Good Maps.
Oh,
Yeah, they're an accessibility app as well. Good Maps. Yeah.
oh, sorry, my mistake. Well, this next question is on it is relating to Google Maps,
Right.
which is would the functionality of What Three Words be more accessible if it were part of the user's existing app ecosystem, e.g. within Google or Apple Maps? Are you anticipating that Google or Apple may copy what you've done and implement it within their own maps?
We're not worried that they're going to copy what we've done, but what we do want is for them to integrate the technology into the app directly, so that you can go into Google Maps or Apple Maps, and then you can directly type, a What Three Words address to navigate somewhere. So it's not unheard of. There's quite a few navigation apps that already have done this. For example, Kakao Maps in Korea, they're like the equivalent of Google Maps in Korea, and they already have What Three Words integrated. So you can go into Kakao, you can open your Kakao Maps app, and then you can go into it. You can also you can click anywhere on the map and it will give you the What Three Words address for that point in the map, but you can also search a What Three Words address into the search bar and navigate to that location. So definitely I think that's what we were sort of in the future. Ideally we'll have companies like Google Maps and Apple Maps also integrating What Three Words in that manner.
Brilliant, thank you. Now we have a question from Alex here, who asks, "Can you get to a postal address? Can you get a postal address from a What Three Words entry? We'd like to let users enter with What Three Words, but some of our upstream APIs require postal addresses."
Yeah. Okay, that's a great. I would love to know the background as what company you work in for whoever asked that question, because Currently, it depends. Like you can definitely get posts with what three words if the company that's either receiving the order and the person and the company that's delivering the order accepts and uses what three words. So there's a few companies like Hermes as well in terms of the logistics space that use what three words already. And so if you're getting a package delivered with Hermes, you can get it delivered with what three words. So it really depends on the company that's delivering the package to you. But ideally, in the future, it's going to be a yes for everyone.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's just about all we've got time for at the moment, unless anyone has any other questions. But yeah, I'd just like to say a big thanks to you, Gigi. What a fantastic presentation, and thanks to everyone else for tuning in today. Sadly, our next session will not be going ahead as planned, as due to unforeseen circumstances. Angela Hooker is now unable to present. We will be rearranging for her to speak at a later date, and we apologise to anyone who is looking forward to that. For those that are signed up to her session, we will, in its place, be showing Alistair Campbell, Leonie Watson, and Richard Morton's roundtable discussion on accessibility capability from Interact 2020 instead. So please do still tune in for what is still a great session. Again, Gigi, thank you very, very much. And yeah, we will see everyone for the next session shortly.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.